Thank you. Well, I am in awe of kind of what we've unpacked here and what I don't understand, but where we're in the place that it's not based on upon our own understanding. It's more based on what we're encountering that's literally shifting the level of our being. And so, I am not a theologian. I love theology because it's studying the person that I'm smitten with, right? But for me, because I am such a mystic in this and such an encounter, and so when you such an encounter-based person, that to take that and put that in theological underpinnings, that more brilliant minds than mine and people that are ancient minds, right, have grappled with these things, is a humbling exercise. And I know when to stay in my lane and defer to greater minds than mine, people that have studied this more. Uh, but I just have to say I'm having a great time. I don't know about you. This is meaty. This is challenging. This is stretching. And in the midst of it, I can feel God's pleasure, his approbation, his championship, like keep on going, right? This invitation to delve deeper, higher, greater, further, farther, and also be at peace and be at rest because he's got us. Like we're so, in the best sense of the word, we're safe. So we can just explore our little heart's content off. We can push the envelope. And it's kind of because some of these things I'm like, what about that? And it's kind of funny because some of these concepts, it's like, wow. And I'm talking to the Lord about it. And if and I know some people that could trigger them. So I'm sorry if I'm not here to trigger. But I'm talking to God, source, whatever. Okay. All of that. And he slash she is just smiling up. It's like, this is fun stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So we're able to engage, and there is safety. I just want to encourage people that there's safety to engage and explore. We're not going to fall off the into the abyss of damnation. Um, and the sheer brilliance of the mind of Christ, the mind of God, um, is such an invitation to expand us in our minds and our understanding. So I don't know. I'm just enjoying it. If someone's going to ask me to like, if I'm going to need to unpack what you said, John, yeah, we're in deep weeds. I will defer. It's like, take it away, John. You know, and you, Melissa, with this, this is, oh, but it's so good. So I don't know. I'm just enjoying myself. I don't know what else to say. I'm kind of babbling. I'm enamored with both of you, Melissa and John, and what you carry and what you've brought to the table and the depth that you have plumbed uh, in your understanding and what you've been able to apprehend, I would say, and the invitation that brings us all up higher into our understanding. And so I'm just grateful. But yeah, I really don't have too many brilliant things to say. I am smitten with the brilliance that is before us, and I'm smitten with the brilliance of the one that's leading us into these higher and higher levels of understanding and revelation and encounter. But I did want to say, yeah, just anyone that's coming into this, and this is maybe like really new to you. Um, Be at peace. Like we are invited to study, to grapple, and we're so secure. We are so secure. We're so secured um, that there's invitation. So I just felt like I needed to say that because someone along the way, maybe not the ones that are represented here, but maybe ones that'll watch the recording or whatever, um, you know, you're safe. You're safe because we're not saved. I'll use that in quotations uh, because of what we believe. We're not saved. We're saved by a person who has us and who's always had us, who we're one with, and we've always been one with. And so you just be at rest. I just feel like I need to say that for somebody. Yeah. So I don't know. There's the very loose babblings of someone who's been thoroughly enjoying herself and so grateful for just to be a part of this and so humbled to be in such gorgeous company. And not just all the other speakers, but everyone who's here that has been grappling, has been asking kick butt questions. This is great. So, yay, us, you know. Um, and I just feel God's like, yeah, yay, you, right? Keep on going, enjoy yourself. There's I just feel like, and the funny thing is like, yeah, there's more. Yeah, there's an invitation. Yeah, there's more. Like, keep on going, keep on going. He wants, God wants his children, his sons and daughters, his bride, his whatever we're identifying ourselves as, to keep on going and to spur one another along. And yeah, so there you go. Probably more than you wanted, but there you go.
Perfect, Catherine. We love you so much. Odin, go. And then I actually want to read something. It just came to me and it's perfect. So, Odin, go.
Okay, awesome. And I do hope that we get to circle back to kind of the cliffhanger that Barry left us with. I think that's a very fascinating topic too. And I do think Catherine, you could definitely speak to this as well as John and Melissa. But so when you started your talk, you mentioned, "Whew, I'm feeling drunk. I'm feeling it." And then as Melissa was talking yesterday, and she said the vibration is, getting bigger and bigger. And then Dr. John talked about buzzing or vibrating, shaking a little bit today. And then Melissa had even mentioned like she has felt a hunger that she has not felt in a long time. So I was wondering if you guys could speak to the sensational feelings that our bodies get when we're encountered with new information that I think maybe causes our bodies to react in a certain way because we are expanding. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there and see if you could talk to the beauty of the sensational feelings within our frames.
Well, I can hop on that right away because that's, I've been feeling this the whole time. And it's interesting because scripture doesn't necessarily talk about that, when there's encounter with the supernatural, the angelic, Christ, when Christ transfigured, right? And they're, everybody's kind of like flat on their faces, going blah, 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 and asking stupid questions, all of that. And I do think there is a level of when we are encountering energy levels, frequency levels, a person who is so vast, and we're trying to filter it in our physical bodies, our physical minds, our nervous systems, and our physical bodies as well. it's like you have a zillion watts of love and this little 4 volt or whatever, however that fuse, right? There's only so much you can take in, and it kind of um, fries you a little bit. I don't know how to say it. You're drunk, you're a little dazed. And that's okay because you're still safe. And there's joy because there's things that are going on in your being that knows past knowing. And you spoke to this, Melissa, right? You know first. So we come from the knowledge of our union, original design, all of that before there even was a material realm as one with this person. And so with this energy, with this source, all this, however, um, and um, and so there's something in taking that into the seen realm, into the tangible bodies that kind of shorts us out a little bit, but it feels great. If you're able to relax because you don't have to understand. It's just bigger than your capacity to take in. So just let it jiggle, let it shake, let it whatever, you're safe. Now, the thing is, we have to understand when there are encounters in the supernatural, whatever, the first thing, fear not, fear not, fear not. If you can get past the I have to understand, I have to control. Okay, that's the thing. I don't under so I'm afraid, right? I feel threatened in some way because this is something I've not witnessed before, and my primitive brain, right, is fight or flighting, right? Because I have to control, I have to understand. If you understand, if you're coming from the place of the embrace of the one who is perfect love, you don't need to understand. You don't need to control. You can let it settle in and let that encounter. Listen, if we are being transfigured by encounter with whatever we're facing and through whatever avenue that we're encountering it, we're literally being transfigured. We're vibrating at a higher frequency. We're getting to the place ultimately because we are as spirit where our bodies are kind of shorting out a little bit, right? And that is totally okay, right? Anybody who's experienced visions, who's had sensations of being taken out of their body, well, this can be kind of freaky. It may be a little bit unusual, but you're still rooted and grounded. And so it's just okay. So all I can say is just enjoy the ride. When you go on a roller coaster, and I'm not a big roller coaster fan, but part of the thrill, the worst part is when you resist it. Okay. When you allow yourself to go for the ride, man, it is the thrill of a lifetime. Okay, it really is. And so this is greater than any ride that we could possibly come up with. And it's good and it's solid. And the beautiful thing is that we come out the other end an upgraded version of ourselves from a higher. I mean, I do believe there's a reason why we go from glory to glory because we've got to like accommodate, assimilate this new level of glory, this way of being, this, right? And then it's like, and there's more. Let's go to the next level of glory. So this is an endless thing because we are unlimited because he's unlimited, right? And so, yeah. So enjoy the ride and let it be whatever it is, knowing you're safe. It's going to be good. And there will be amazing fruit on the other side that looks like a higher dimension of what you know already.
Yeah, it's awesome. Do you still have your hand up, Odin? Okay. I just didn't want to skip you. So during the break, I did not see this coming, but I was just meditating, just kind of absorbing everything, and out of nowhere, I heard the spirit say, "You need to look at Chronicles, First Chronicles 4:10." Now, in all honesty, I've not turned to Chronicles for about 5 years. It's been a long, long time. But I want to read. We all know it. We all know Rick Warren's Prayer of Jabez book came out 20 years ago, la la la. But I just want to read this one verse. And I think there's so much applicability here for what we're talking about. First Chronicles 4:10 out of the ESV. I'm gonna start at verse 9. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother called him Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. Jabez called upon the Lord of the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my border, and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from harm, so that it would not bring me pain. And as Catherine was talking, like, it's kind of weird for me to associate not understanding with pain, but not understanding can present a pain point. And I feel like as we allow the Lord to enlarge our borders and widen our ability to go beyond what we understand. I mean, and we've said that a lot this weekend, but I think, at least for me, there's a lot of and it's not like, oh man, now I have to surrender, but there's this thing in me, like, where you're burning the bridge behind you from ever having the entitlement to understand again. And I feel that in my guts. Like, and I'm looking over my shoulder, like, oh shit, that thing is on fire, and there is no going back. Like, so yeah, Lincoln, go for it. And then we're as soon as Lincoln's done, we'll get back into this idea of incarnation, because I really want to go there.
You want me to ask the same question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, why don't you do that, Barry? That's good.
So the context, and going back to the chat, where Dr. John was referencing the blind man and the possibility of his of this this possibly not being his first go around. And there's another element to this, and I'll be brief, and I can be brief. I know, don't fall out of your chairs. So I'm a musician. When I was a child, I walked into a music store and I saw a set of drums up on a drum riser in the music store, and there was something in me that literally, it wasn't a voice, it wasn't another person. It was an acknowledgement within me that said, go ask for a pair of drumsticks, because you know how to do this. And I literally went and asked the owner. I thought about this during the break. I literally went and asked the owner for a pair of drumsticks, and I sat down behind those drums that I was like in the 8th, 9th grade. I was in awe because I loved music. I grew up in church singing, and everyone in my mom's family played some kind of instrument. And so I sat down and I just started playing a 4/4 beat, and just not knowing where in the world this came from, but it gave me a joy. Like, there are very few moments in my life that I've had a joy that's unspeakable. And I'm not using those terms to be trite or archaic. But this literally gave me so much joy because it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm surrounded by all of these people that know how to do all these amazing things. My siblings, my parents, and I felt like, I don't know, I felt like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and like I didn't have any of those skills built in. But when I sat down behind those drums and just knew exactly what to do, it's like, where did this come from? So I kind of mixed that in the bowl with all the other flavors of pudding that we've got going on, um, to kind of just reinforce that question. It's like, is this really anybody's first go around? You know? And anyway, thank you in advance. Thanks for asking to refresh the question.
Eula, meaning Melissa or Dawn, specifically, whoever wants to maybe swing first.
First of all, can I make a suggestion?
Go for it.
Really
Yes.
quick? So, just being a moderator in so many various rooms, if asking a question, this is going to help the flow a ton, besides putting the question in the chat like has been requested. But when you come on, if you'll, and it's okay for our, we'll, as speakers, we'll all pipe in when we feel the leading. But if you'll address the speaker in particular, and then like, this is my question, it's going to help us answer your question with so much more clarity versus I'm looking at John and John's looking at me and he's looking at Catherine. Again, we're like, so we want to serve you the best that we can. And so just framing it, Dr. John, my question is yada, yada, yada. Not to be bossy, it's just my little nugget.
Helpful, Melissa. Thank you.
I absolutely agree. Thank you very much, Melissa. I appreciate that.
So,
To be completely honest, I'm kind of lost now. So
Doctor,
So the question was originally directed towards Dr. John. So Dr. John, would you please respond? Thank you.
Sure. Part of this deals with awareness, and part of this deals with thinking. The reason I brought the scripture about was really to respond to Lincoln's idea of, or question about, intentionality of why we are here now. It wasn't just limited to, do we believe in reincarnation? I love to play with, in evangelical circles, I've done this years ago because I'm not invited back as often as I used to be. Matter of fact, a good long time. I would say to them, every evangelical believes in reincarnation. They would be like, what? Yeah. Don't you believe you're coming back with Jesus in a glorified body? That's another incarnation. Okay, so
Dun, dun, dun.
and I would just drop that and go on. There's much we could talk about this. There's a lot of scriptures we could deal with. There are things about texts, how they're written, what's being said. We can go through all that sort of stuff. But the real intention was to at the time of the question, and if you want to go down the track of reincarnation, that's good. But honestly, it's almost like maybe that's a whole nother session for a discussion, because there's a lot of other things we could talk about. But the issue was your existence now at this time. That was my original intention. Yes, I have thoughts about reincarnation, but the intention was to point out that even the man who's born blind, first of all, in that particular text, the disciples already had the religious answer. And their question was based in what they already know. It's like, come on, Jesus, you tell me. We know it's about sin, isn't it? Right? And that's why he's in this situation. And their theology, yes, Hebrew Jewish theology embraced reincarnation. Full stop. Okay. And what's powerful about Jesus is he doesn't correct anything. He doesn't say, oh, there's no such thing as reincarnation appointed unto man once to die and then to judgment, misusing that scripture from Hebrews. Okay. But instead, he just goes right to the core. It's about working out the works of God. Why are you here at this time in your situation in this life is to work out the reality of the great I am within you. That's really what I was going through. But there's a lot more to, because for most of us, we think when we are born into this planet, that's when we begin. No, that's a spiritual as well as, and Melissa, you can probably address this better than I can. That is a scientific impossibility. Melissa, you used the concept of the quantum mind, right? And what I understand about that is the quantum mind can affects protons, neutrons, electrons, affects that physical thing and can actually shape and change form. And we can that place comes to there. Maybe you want to unpack that a little bit more. But the point is you're here because not mind as in, well, God did it and I'm just here now. It's way more than that. That's why when Jesus said, for example, for a body you have prepared for me, I'm saying the same thing.
Can I pipe in?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
First, I love this stuff. First, I want to make an acknowledgement. Probably it's unnecessary for anybody in this room because y'all have been in this room way longer than I've been in this room. Anybody that might be watching, this is for anybody new. And this is what I've discerned. This is what I'm experiencing in this. And I think this is why I just absolutely so lit on fire is we have all heard churches, church groups, religious groups, whatever you want to call them, say forever, come as you are. And when you show up as you are, they're like, oh, hell no, not that version of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And because of where I come from and the neuropsychology and the approaches that I have, and recognizing like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the fact that, you know, besides just our physical needs being met, the next most important thing for a human to experience is safety. And then from safety is belonging. And I have yet to experience a group that has provided such safety and belonging for you to legit come as you are with all of your beliefs, your unbeliefs, your disbeliefs, and your half-cooked potato beliefs. It doesn't even matter. You get to be you, and you're safe, and you belong. And I freaking am impressed because everything rolls downhill. If it didn't start at the top of the organization, I understand you're not all into hierarchy and all that other kind of stuff. Jeremy, get over your big bad self. However, you set the stage with your intention and what you believed was possible, and you set the vibrational environment and frequency for that to flourish. Now, I want to thank you for that. So moving along from that one was free for anybody that's watching and new. In regards to reincarnation, I want to say this. I don't think any religion or individual has the truth, and I say truth with a capital T, and fullness of what reincarnation even can possibly be. And I think anytime that we do try to define it and stick it in a box, we've already limited it, right? And so I love the fractal presentation that Dr. John used in making one correction to what I said yesterday, and an elaboration, and maybe this will help where Barry is going and questioning. And I had said that, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It changes form. However, there is one place in which all things are constantly created, including energy. And that is the place of God, the creator. So when you're seeing that fractal that he was pointing out, what I want you to also see, if you can visualize this, and I'm sure Lincoln could actually do this in his AI, is those as the triangle. In one aspect, there's a human aspect that almost wants to look like it's dividing, if you will, creating more, and it's contained within this. But if you will actually see those triangles being sent out, like make the 3D model where it's actually coming out, each one of those triangles within the larger triangle, right? I want you to hold that in your mind for a moment, and we look at, please don't ask me the exact locations. I could look it up really quick, but in Ephesians and both in Jeremiah, when it references God knowing you before your quote unquote existence, this wasn't God knowing himself. This was God knowing you. And that word knowing was the same word. If I recall, and anybody smarter than me can correct me, I'm so good with being wrong, was when Adam knew Eve, like that intimate, right? It's not about knowing himself. So knowing you as something individual, yet we also know not a part of, right? Apart from. So if you are the fractal, a fractal of God being created, and yet you were known intimately before you flew out of that little triangle and landed in a body, you pre-existed.
Sure.
Period.
Yeah.
As is our model. Jesus was the word. What is a word? Actually, I'm not going to get into this. I don't want to get into it like a huge teaching or whatever. A word, sound, voice, the vibration of the energy made flesh. So were you. The question is, do we repeat it? My question back is it important? Because what you have is the here and now. The only valid moment is the present moment. So whether you carried being a phenomenal drummer in your epigenetics from a prior generation that you didn't know, and a passion that moved someone and it was passed on to you, or that you lived a life that you experienced being a phenomenal drummer, does it matter? Because the only thing that matters is the fact that you are now today. And whether you experience that in a prior life or you're experiencing it right now, trying to associate it with a prior life or something external to what you are right now is actually discrediting the ownership of the present moment and what you carry as the individual that you are right now. If it was important to our present existence to have a memory of a life prior lived, God, when he created you and said it was good, would have already adorned you with that memory. Now, are there people that say they have memories from prior lives? Sure, absolutely. So is it a possibility that, they're doing a rerun because the joy set before them was so priceless that they wanted to do it again? Sure, why not? Why not? Is it a requirement? Do any of us know? And does it matter for the present moment? I think personally, and I've had some really strange experiences. I've had the out-of-body experiences. I've had all the crazy stuff. I personally do have a internal vision. This one is not an external vision, an internal vision of being outside of this earth form with so much knowledge and understanding of the fullness of what this phase in our life is, and being able to look on it with such awe and love and passion that I could totally see me personally going, oh my gosh, I want to do that again. Like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Am I saying it's so good right now? No, the chrysalis kind of sucks. But afterwards, right? With the eyes that are unveiled, the eyes that see and the ears that hear, and seeing the overall. Yeah, I could totally see that would be the joy set before a soul that was like, I get it. That was good. That was rich. And some that would say, that was good. But I'm good here. That's my take.
Okay, just tack on one little thought to that too, because that was just.
Absolutely, John, go for it.
I was just saying, if we go back to the fractal concept again and we look at the size of the galaxies and all that sort of stuff, understanding that people who talked about things like reincarnation that goes back thousands of years had a certain cosmology that they perceived. Because yes, the New Testament does say certain things more places than we'd like to admit, sometimes because of our upbringing, I think. But why just here? If you're going to come back to something, why a new galaxy, a new planet? Why not? Why just here? Because that maybe was their cosmology. The real case in point, and I think Melissa nailed it. There's a reason why that the Hebrew says in Exodus, "Ahia asher ahia," I am that I am. The I am is now present tense continuous.
Yeah.
The past may be important, previous lives may be, whatever. But the only thing we owned is the now.
Yeah. If it would help anybody, I put some scripture about our existence before time, right before the created concept of time. If people want to dive into that, I stuck that in the chat.
Can you just share?
It's
Can
not
you share
explicit.
one? Can you just share one?
Yeah, well, sure. So, okay, I need to got my contacts on, so I need to zoom this in so I can actually read it. Okay, so there's actually several. I wrote a blog series on this, not necessarily on reincarnation, but it fits in this. So I just hold that loosely. I love that. Probably my favorite let me see here, is 2 Timothy 1:9-10. So he gave us resurrection life. This is Passion Translation, and drew us to himself by his holy calling on our lives. It wasn't because of any good we have done, but by his divine pleasure. I'm sorry, that just makes me happy. And marvelous grace that confirmed our union with anointed Jesus even before time began, before there was this created entity of time. Right. And I love this. This is so applicable to us. You go on in verse 10. This truth is now being unveiled. Dun, dun, dun. This is what we're doing right now by the revelation of the anointed Jesus, our life giver, who has dismantled death, obliterating its effects on our lives, and has manifested his immortal life in us by the gospel. So this is talking about existence before time, existence before. Ephesians 4:10 talks about us being joined with him before the foundation of the world, before the foundation of the material realm, where energy slowed down into tangible substance, the way that we're engaging with our five physical senses. And so this is a reality, a truth in God that has always been. So this is where time breaks down because it's a created entity. It's connected with the material realm. And so we are immaterial. We are spirit. We are energy. So there was this in our oneness with God as the fractal within the whole, that has always been, because if he's been eternal in our, and I do believe we're created beings, but we have to understand that this whole concept of time breaks down. So you were a you before you were ever sent into the material realm, regardless of if you've been recycled, whatever. This is you. And so there's so much that we don't understand. And I actually remember growing up as a little girl, and I had a grasp of this as a little girl. And I remember thinking, and this is how my little brain worked. It's that I'm forgetting the way to heaven. I'm forgetting the way to heaven. See, I knew I existed before I was sent. And, but I could feel the amnesia taking over, right? And so this was a real, no one taught me this. I just knew. I mean, I was maybe 3, 4 with this consciousness, but I could feel it slipping away and it scared me. I didn't want to lose it, right? Because I could feel that connection, but I could also feel the pull of what being part of the material realm, my physical senses, and just the junk happening around me, what that does to us, right? So, yeah, so that's a very, it's real, for lack of a better statement. So I hope that helped.
Awesome. Thank you to all of our panelists. Lincoln, you can go ahead, ask your question, and then I'm going to ask a question on Odin's behalf, and then I actually have my own question, if that's okay. Lincoln, just make sure you address whichever panelists you want directly when you ask your question, just for clarity. Thank you.
This one is for John. Oh man, what if it doesn't matter if it's reincarnation or any of that, but it's always the eternal continuation of experience of the source. Like, let's say if the source is the ocean, right? And we scoop a cup in the ocean, we came from the same source. So pretty much we are pretty much a reflection of that source in a whole different poetic poetry, or whatever you call it, whatever you guys call God, source, God, any of that, in a whole different form. And it kind of showed a little form of immortality, because we came from that source, and that source is always continuing experiencing, like how I'm experiencing picking up my phone or eating vitamins or whatever that stuff. It's never going to stop being creative, ever. And if it want to experience again, it will do it. And again, and again, and again. I don't know. What do you think, John? Is that pretty close what you think?
Sounds good to me. I don't mean to just, I once heard it this the opposite of death isn't life. The opposite of death is birth. Life is eternal.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
So I think we're all traveling through this moment in time to just not to discover the answer, but to discover the awareness. I don't know if that makes sense when I say that, because part of us, we want to know the answer. I think part of the challenge with some of the reincarnation discussions at times is we want to know the answer. And somehow, if I know that I was, Mark Antony, a lover of Cleopatra in the past, somehow my life is going to make sense. I got enough problems with my own wife. I don't need Cleopatra. You know what I'm saying? So, trying to figure that one out. So my point is that this is a vast thing, and part of it is I think that still desire to want to that kind of knowing is a controlling knowing. The knowing we're talking about, if I may frighten us with the word, the gnosis we're talking about at this point, the epignosis, the superimposed awareness, okay, is something way broader. And I think we have to just kind of, this sounds so cliche, but kind of trust and rest there.
Yeah.
And let it evolve as it needs to. I mean, yeah, part of the issue, I love what Catherine said about being aware and then starting to forget. There's a lot that's in that, some theological. I mean, one of the purposes, I don't know if anybody's studied any of this, one of the purpose of the archons, which is we translate principalities, is to help you forget.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. That said, there's a great movie that talks about this. It's hilarious. It's funny. It's called Baby Geniuses. And I highly recommend it for the very things Catherine was talking about, because you find the Christopher Lloyd is in it, and he's one of the doctors, and he's aware, and they're trying to rob the babies of their awareness. Because when a baby starts its first goo goo gaga, that's when it begins to forget who it really is. So prior to that, you kind of get to hear these babies sitting around in a circle talking about the dynamics of the universe and all that it is. And then finally one starts a goo goo and they're like, oh no, we're losing her, and she forgets then. And now she's a baby and she starts. It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Can I pipe in and just blow everybody's mind just a little bit?
Go for it, Melissa, please.
Okay. So I alluded to, I've had lots of supernatural experiences. So in the scripture, it says, I have no idea if I was there or I was here. I've totally experienced that firsthand. Have experienced the out of body and didn't know I was out of body until I walked into my room and saw my body laying there. And the first time that happened, I was like, oh my God, how do I get back in there? Right? So crazy experiences. But one experience I want to share here, just because I just want to open your mind to the possibility. And in one thing I have found in my journey is when we release or we surrender the need for everything to be a figure outable, you will figure out more things. And, or you will experience more things. But the more that we get wrapped up in everything trying to be a figure outable, the more we get lost in the forgetting. So I was taken into an experience a few years back, and I met my grandson 2 years before he was ever conceived.
Wow.
And it was so intense that coming out of the experience, I was fighting like a wet cat. Like, do not take, oh my gosh, I was so in love with this being, knew that child intimately. I cannot describe to you. I was so distraught coming out of that moment. At the time, I only had one son that was married. And I immediately got on the phone. Of course, my children know I'm weird, so they're used to my weirdness. I'm on the phone, and I was like, "Is Lexi pregnant?" And he's like, "No, why?" And I'm like, "Did she have an abortion?" What? I was trying to make reason and logic of my experience. And he was like, "Mom, you know, the only thing that Lexi has ever wanted in her entire life is to be a mom. There would be a cold day in hell before she ever," I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "What happened?" And so I all of a sudden got really careful because I knew that I wasn't supposed to reveal everything about this child to his future parents. So I was like, "Well, I can't exactly tell you, but I want to tell you that I just met my first grandchild." And he's like, "Okay, Mom." And so a couple years, and he obviously told my firstborn, his oldest brother, "This is what Mom called me with." And my firstborn hadn't even met his wife yet. They had a fast and furious engagement and marriage. She had no intentions of having kids for a millennia. She was the first one to get pregnant, and they immediately called me and said, "You know this child, don't you?" Yeah. And they're like, "What is it?" I'm like, "I'm not telling you. That's not my place." And so it was really funny. Then they tested me after they had the ultrasound. "So you said that you know this child. Is it a boy or a girl?" I'm like, "It's a boy." They're like, "Oh, man. What's he like?" So I will tell you, because I shared yesterday my journey of learning to trust my knower, right? And there's that seed of fear, there's that seed of questioning. And so then it came to, am I really sure? And I will tell you, and the whole family is like, "What is up with you and this child?" He is now 18 months old. Has the strangest, closest, most bonded connection to me over Mom, over Dad, over other grandparents that see him almost on a daily basis, that is otherworldly. Do I have an explanation for it? I have zero explanation other than my experience and my knowing of that moment. Yeah. That moment in outside of time somewhere, somehow, that I did not cause. And this is what I want. This is what I really want to deposit, is when we try to cause a moment, we cause chaos within ourselves. When we learn to surrender to the potential and the possibility, then the moment happens.
Yeah, I think that's starting from that place of rest and trust, which you can only do if you feel safe, right? If there's a safety. And, you were talking about, Jeremy, kind of almost when knowing, the need to know can be tormenting, because then you've just slipped into the place of fear. You're not in rest. And now you're operating in a whole, you're operating in beta mode. You're operating in the place where you're not going to have that level of encounter that you would have in these alternate alpha and theta states, that you slip into, you release into, you surrender into. When you mentioned that one book, I can't even remember what you said it was, but I ordered it right away lest I forget. That surrender book. Okay.
Surrender Experiments by Michael Singer.
Yeah. And it really is that. And that's a resting in this place of safety that you're, so regardless of what the answer is about reincarnation, and I love to think, does it really matter? And for someone it might matter, but it's okay. We're just going to be, you're just okay, right? And even in the place where there are things you know in your knower that you've forgotten, but you can't access them, the place to access is that place of rest and surrender. And then just trust that this good God, we're kind of on an as need to know basis. And sometimes we stress ourselves out, or honestly, we start getting in this really ego based way of being. It's like, well, she did that, and I want to see my grandchildren. And I guess, God, you love her more because whatever. We get in these stupid things, right? And so we just need to rest in the goodness, and sometimes, honestly, in the charismatic realms, people can go off in like, well, I had this encounter. Well, I had this encounter. And it starts to be this whole, measure. It's like, okay, like, whatever. So we just need to be careful. These are pits that we can tend to fall into. Be at rest. It is okay for, say, that to inspire. It's like, ooh, that'd be awesome. But whatever you have for me, whatever, this is part of that trust. God, can I trust you in your goodness and your love towards me? That, man, these people are visiting galaxies and talking to Enoch and all these different things. And I'm still trying to, I don't know, whatever. We need to chill. We need to get out. We need to rest. We need to remind ourselves of that we're just adored, and rest in that, and it all launches from that. It's not like, and I've had cool encounters, but it's like, crap, it's been a little while since I've had but anytime we wake up in the morning and listen, we're hearing, what was that someone had mentioned about the trees speaking to you? That's an encounter, right? So let's value what's there, and more shall be given, right? That we can enjoy. And understanding we're also wired differently. I mean, some of us are seers, some of us are thinkers. Encounter looks like a lot of different things. Just enjoy. He wants you to have and enjoy, right? That life, right? Just enjoy. Yeah.
Awesome answers.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Catherine, that's so good. And I just really quickly, and I'll get to you. I love what you're saying about the encounter. Look, so many different things, and something in my own personal journey I'm learning is how to recognize and honor encounter, but not make it this huge charismatic thing. Like sometimes it's as simple as watching my 5-year-old and recognizing, like, oh man, she's carrying the heart of the Father at 5. Precious moment. And then my day. And I've been coining them flyby encounters. Because and I love what you said, and I'll make it PG-13. In my charismatic experience, there was a lot of encountering dick swinging contests always going on.
I almost said it, Jeremy. So
I know. I said
almost
it.
said it.
I said it for you.
Thank you. Good job. You took the hit for me. Thank you.
No, but it's so much of my experience, and I participated in some of that nonsense. Sitting at a table with a bunch of pastors, and we all have to feel the need to one up each other.
Yeah.
And no encounter is, you can't compare. So love go.
Yeah, so this question comes from Odin, and this is for Melissa. Can you please speak to the feminine masculine existence within each of us, and also the more dominant of the two in all of us?
Okay, so the masculine and the feminine energy, first of all, has nothing to do with gender. So let's make that like uber clear. In Chinese, it's represented as yin and yang. I actually like that because there's less lens, I think, in our Western lens, attached to yin and yang. A lot of the Western people have very little language for the Eastern. So it has a little bit more freedom to it than masculine and feminine because we assign labels then, right? And so the masculine often represented as things that are more structured, analytical. The feminine represented by things that are more, if you will, intuitive, flowing. And the art is to learn how to navigate. I don't even use the term balance anymore because we have a horrible idea of balance in our culture. So if you want to be ultimately balanced in your being, you will have zero momentum. Perfectly balanced, a perfectly balanced human is standing still.
Wow.
In order to have momentum, you have to actually be completely unbalanced and shifting. That is what creates momentum. We all should have both structure and flow. And the wisdom to know how to create momentum in order to fulfill our purpose in both of them. If we're all flow, we are all over the place with no structure, no guardrails. If we are all structure, we are stuck.
Yeah.
And there's no way to create momentum or movement. So you hold the ability of both within you, whatever you want to label it. And I know when I was a guest in Project 95 that one time we touched on it really briefly, and I do love this visual of the bowl as representative of the masculine or the structure, and it is strong. Take that another step back over to the, I don't remember if this is Chinese or Japanese, and I can't remember the term off the top of my head, but it's this beautiful thing is when the bowl is broken and they actually put it back together with gold.
Wasabi.
That.
Yeah,
Okay,
wasabi.
thank you.
So
So it's not, you don't want to be a structure that cannot be broken. That's rigid and very self-protecting. There's actually beauty in the breaking and the coming back together, right? There's another part of you, though, that is like water. And water changes form. The only way the bowl changes form is by breaking, which is a good thing, right? His body was broken. The only way the bowl changes form is by breaking, coming back together with the gold. You can't break water, but it does change form. We've seen water As our bodies are majority water, right? But water is necessary to life. Flow is necessary to life. It can become ice cold. It can be a hurricane. It can be a wave in the ocean. It can be still. It can be chaotic. It holds so much potential in it. But without the bowl to cradle, without the structure, without the strength to cradle the water, without the boundaries, it's spread thin and lost. So when we get tied up in masculine and feminine concepts, really, it's kind of like back to the present moment. What is needed in this present moment? Both structure and flow. And where are you presenting structure and flow in this moment?
Okay.
Or where are you out of whack in it, right? Some people are like, I am all structure. Like, whoo, okay. Yay, you. Bye-bye. Like, my vibe is not vibing with your vibe. Or the same with the other. So I think that the most important thing in understanding this concept, kind of like what going back to even the reincarnation concept, is just knowing in our being, creating momentum, we have to have structure and we have to have flow. And how is that manifesting in this moment for me right now?
It's really
And it's a great reminder when we do that, because we can go, ooh, we're a little high on the flow at the moment. Where's my structure? I kind of lost it somewhere, or vice versa.
that's good. That is so good,
Hopefully
Melissa.
I answered that.
Yeah, that's really good. For anybody, this might be a blessing to. I was debating on whether I should mention anything. I did write a book called God, Male and Female. It's the masculinity and femininity of God, and there's a lot of gorgeous surprises in it. God had mandated me. He said, because I was writing a blog series, he said, no, this is not a blog series. It's actually a book. And he said that my children don't understand me rightly. I'm neither male nor female, but in gender both. So there's a lot of mystery in there. But the way that you see the Godhead, all members of the Trinity, operate in both this masculine energy and feminine energy, structure and flow. Okay, I love that. Is breathtaking. And I think it provides a lot of freedom and can have a lot of healing because it speaks into all the different areas where we are tending to spin out, and even with our identities and all sorts of things. So if that's of interest to you, it's on Amazon, God, Male and Female. So if that's helpful, oh, Mercy, thank you. She stuck that in there. And then also someone did mention Chris Blackaby did an incredible series on basically masculinity and femininity and the return of the feminine energy back into many quarters of the church that have been so much in structure, they kind of have their panties in a wad, and they need more of that feminine energy and the miraculous. So he did an incredible job, and that's on YouTube. So just so you know, lots to look into there, but you did an incredible job, Melissa. I love that. That's great.
Odin, I see your comment, and I want to speak to that really quick. So you said I have both, but my flow is my default. My wife is structure default and has really grown into her ability to flow. That's my husband and I. And before there was language for it, when we're married almost 30 years, but we were both second marriages, and we did not walk into our marriage with blinders on. We're walking into the marriage and starting counseling immediately because we both have baggage. So, and the counselor sat down and was like, and literally nailed my husband and was like, you are definitely more the feminine and she is definitely more the masculine. Now, with that said, in outer life, my husband was a freaking sniper. Like my husband, is a big man, a utter badass on the outside. He's a marshmallow underneath. But, so just seeing him, you would think there is no way there is anything feminine about that, because that is what culture has said. So this is why I said we really have to get away from a gender association, and we all have flow and structure, period, and different seasons ask different things of us. And in a marriage between two people who, I was a mom running a household, and you guys know some of my career background and everything, doing all the things. Structure was required of me to survive. It didn't mean I was all structure, because that's not my design. So I just want to really impress on us to let go of the associations, because it's one of the things we were talking about yesterday with the soul and the programming. Whatever you were programmed to believe as masculine and feminine is manifesting in how you're viewing and experiencing even you and your wife in life right now. And I can say this, I don't know you, but I can say this because I know the science. It's a distortion of what the truth is, which is you are both structure and flow. And in order to create momentum, you have both. You might be more aware of the flow because that's our 40 to 50 bits out of 11 million every second. But it does not mean that all because that's what you're aware of, that's what's true. The truth is there's 11 million bits of structure and flow happening every second in your life. And you're operating in both of them.
That was freaking amazing. And I want to dial in a couple just practical thoughts and maybe tie some of this together. But as you were talking earlier about if you're truly balanced, you're stationary. Well, something that I love that Damon Thompson says about this topic of balance is when we try to be balanced, it actually is indicative of what James says. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. And back to what you said about when you try to create a moment, it actually causes chaos. I would venture to say, if you try to create balance, you may create chaos. And what I love about the differentiation of what we're talking about here between balance and a organic flow of both things, I would say the main differentiation is effort. Your strength and absolute surrender to let both things flow when they need to flow. And I would venture to say that that's also indicative of probably being spirit led too. So just a couple thoughts I had on this to kind of tie that together.
Thanks, Jeremy. Am I good to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This question is actually for all of the panelists. If we want to answer it, Catherine, John, Melissa, that's fine. I need to pad this a little bit because I just want to provide a little bit more substance, but I'll try to be as clear and concise as I can in the interest of time. We talk about the next generation a lot around here, and the idea that there are children walking around right now that have never been exposed to all of the garbage that we've had to navigate through. And that's amazing. And I love the fact that they'll never be exposed to those things. But there are quite a few folks that are parents now, whether you have adolescent children or adult children, that kind of have a mixed exposure. Maybe it was, they grew up Catholic and now they're on the Trinitarian side of the fence, or in, the charismatic side of that circle, and now they're over here. So I guess my question would be, based off of your all's experience as parents and grandparents and whatnot, what is some advice that you could give to people watching this that raise their children a certain way up until a certain point, but now they're on the other side of this faith, this theology? How can they help their kids kind of navigate that journey as they transition deeper and deeper into the Trinitarian grace message, if you want to call it that?
I mean, I think whatever you do, they need to have their own journey and they need to be free. You're not free to if you're not free not to, and you're not free not to if you're not free to. And with the Spirit as Lord, there is freedom. So in that place where your children need to explore. Now, there are safeties, right? There are safeties that, it's not just, well, let it all flow. I mean, I grew up, I mean, we were secular humanists is what we were, and looked down on Christianity. So I'd sneak read my Bible. I had encounters with Jesus and it was messy. Okay. So, and then when I finally ended up, being saved, okay, awakening to my salvation, okay, awakening to that, then I went through all the camps and all the religious stuff, the good, bad, and indifferent, and just really navigated all over the map, and then kind of deconstructed. But it wasn't this horrific thing because I had started from this place, this relational place to begin with. And you know it, right? And with that, during my children's rearing, we were probably, I mean, there was religious crap that I've repented of since then, and I've had to really release them because they're not actively pursuing per se the things of God, Trinitarian Grace Camp, or whatever. They're on their own journey. But I do know what's really cool is that the more I relax, the more Christ in them is drawing them. So we go back to what they know. And that's the safety and that's the tether. So, I mean, there are guardrails where I messed up with my kids, I would say, is just fear, because I had my own brokenness, and then I had religious overlay, and that level of intensity always, it just kind of brings death, that religious thing. And the more I've been able to relax, even though they're not like Jesus, 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 like you still got him. And so that's drawing and that's winsome and that's beautiful. But where I grew up, anything went, and that wasn't good either, right? We do need safeties. We do need guardrails. There was exposure to evil that was wrong, right? So, yeah. Um, and I think there's a wisdom. I feel like the Lord, for whoever may be struggling with this as a parent, I feel like the Lord is just wanting to highlight, this is beautiful. I just hear him say, you have the wisdom within you. Wisdom is within you. And there's a deeper wisdom. We have the Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of wisdom and counsel and might and revelation and knowledge and fear of the Lord. I'm sure I missed one or two, whatever. We got all that. We're packing all of it. But it's within us. So going deeper into the foundational place of the wisdom, because each child is also different with what they're needing. And the more authentic, we're operating at that highest level of frequency, Melissa, the more authentic that we are in who we are, the more freedom that brings and allows a space for our children to grow in the authenticity of who they are, because we're not trying to control them because of fear from whatever direction it's coming from. I don't want to be religious. Well, but I don't want to be like all things are okay, because not everything is okay. Some things lead to death. It's a thing. So yeah, the wisdom is within you. And I think it's okay you have permission to go inside and get the answers that you're needing, because it's resident in you. There's a residential, if Father God is the ultimate parent, as we're seeing that, and I know we're using different language, so don't let me throw you off. But if we have a divine parent, we have a perfect parent that we are one with and knows how to lead and guide us. But we have to get past, you were so wise, Melissa, like, okay, we're getting married, we're getting counseling, right? It's a thing. And right, to get past our own brokenness, our own fears, our own shutdowns, and that brings freedom to our kids as well. So yeah, whatever that's worth.
So I want to jump on that. So you said something, Rob, that, our children or the next generation, it's like, oh man, this is so awesome, because they're not going to grow up with all of this garbage and, programming and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to push back on that, because I think anything that we offer is garbage. So even our framework, the moment that we go, we got it right, out of the millions of years, we got it right? That's how our grandparents felt, and and it's the intention. We have good intentions. But in comparison to the truth, the universal truth of God, it's all garbage. None of us have the fullness of it figured out. However, this is my remedy to that. Is there's a scripture that I'm so passionate about: raise a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. And everybody has interpreted that as raise them on the straight and narrow, whatever it is that you believe. And and I'm sorry, that has created more wild children than freedom has ever created. So what is that scripture really telling us to do? There's some keys. Raise a child in the way they should go. Not in the way you should go, not in the way you wished you would have gone, not in the way that you think they should go. But what does that require? That requires that intimate knowing of that little human. And the next little human, by golly, I can guarantee will want to go in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And that is part of parenting with the heart of the Father. The only thing that you can do is know that child as best as you can, and then set the environment as best as you can for that child to make their decisions, not the best decisions, their decisions. Because I will also say, if they don't make mistakes, they will never learn and grow. If we went to school and the teacher was like, what is 2 + 2? And we're like, it's 5. And we were never told that we were wrong, or we never got an F on a test, we would just think that was okay.
Yeah.
Right? So you set the environment, the intention around the child that you have done the best that you can to know. You know, oversimplification. Oh my gosh, my child's got some musical inclinations. Well, you don't all of a sudden just put worship music on 24/7 because you're trying to form them into a worship leader. Right? You set music around them. And then where do they gravitate? You set musical instruments. Where do they gravitate? Oh, that direction. So who's really leading your child? Your child is leading you, showing you who they are. And we actually have to take that humble position of a student of our child.
That's great.
Regardless of the garbage we carry, in spite of the garbage we carry.
That's so good. And I wanna jump
Jeremy,
on that because
one
yeah.
real quick. Does John have anything to say on this?
Well, a lot's been said.
I know. I just wanted to give you space, brother. That's all.
No, I would just, if I was going to use an evangelical framework for a second and then slide over to something else, which I think both Catherine and Melissa already said, an evangelical framework would be God is the perfect parent. Well, if he is, then why did his kids go sideways? Or if God is the perfect parent, that's why his kids went sideways. He allowed them the right to choose. He allowed them the right to go the path they needed to go, we needed to go, to develop, grow, and discover who we are.
And
That
in
would be
turn, learn more about him, right?
Absolutely.
And about themselves, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
Huge part of
you
that's
know,
a
and that's why I
self-discovery.
said you guys really
Mhm.
said it all, but there's my 2 cents.
No, I really appreciate it. And by the way, I'm asking this as someone that doesn't have any kids. So it's just I'm always intrigued by different approaches to this because I'm trying to understand, what people are going through. And while I can't empathize in this particular case, I can sympathize. And that really helps me because for some reason people do ask me what they should do. I don't know why, particularly in this area, but that really arms me with something that's tangible and it's actually helpful. That also takes a lot of stress off too. It's a really amazing perspective that all 3 of you have presented on this topic, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. Thank you, Jeremy. Go for it.
I think one of the most challenging things I've had to do as a parent, and probably rewarding things, and it's still to come, because my kids are pretty young, still informable. But as I was coming into kind of these Trinitarian grace spaces, I was like really excited to teach my kids about God and about when we left the church. I remember having a conversation with the Holy Spirit, and I heard, yeah, you could do that. or you cannot talk to me. You cannot talk to your kids about me at all and allow me to reveal myself to them when they're ready. And so one of the things me and my wife have done, we talk about God and Jesus almost never with our kids. Which still to this day feels like a fish out of water. Because a good parent, teaches and preaches and talks about Jesus, especially someone like me who I eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. But what I've noticed is it has allowed those moments that Melissa was talking about, the organic and the flow of things, that allows me to have those moments unforced, unscheduled, unstructured. And even as you were talking, Melissa, I'm so confident in that God is going to reveal their self to my kids on his timing. And if he asks me to do something, of course, I'm always listening, but I'm blown away. He's never asked me to try to share something with my kids. Outside of love. Outside of love, that's the only thing he wants me to talk to my kids about. And when I do, and when my wife does, we do it in a way that it's not even like, it doesn't even sound like a conversation about God. It sounds like normal, everyday life. And I just wonder, as a parent who's thinking out loud, I wonder if that's the design. You don't have these separate religious conversations with your kids about who God is and who love is all the time. You just let that be embodied in how you live your life.
I think it depends on how much you want to indoctrinate your child.
Absolutely. And that's my
It's
greatest
your need,
fear.
not theirs.
That I'm so glad you said that, Melissa. And me and my wife were passionate about coming out of indoctrination. So the last freaking thing I want to do is indoctrinate my kids with what I think now, because what I think now is not going to be what I think in 10 years.
Yeah. So something that, I refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs a lot. I've got some frameworks that are built around it. What people don't know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a lot of people don't know, some do. If you're in the, kind of psychology world, is Maslow changed his mind about his own pyramid. And after studying some tribes that hadn't been really touched by outside cultures, what he actually discovered was they operate, and this is tribes that have like no crime and no, crimes against humans, and just these isolated tribes that are really, really, really thriving, is his pyramid was literally flipped upside down. And so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your physical needs, and then your safety needs, your belonging needs, and your self-esteem needs. And then that leads to self-actualization, which is like what I talked about yesterday, going within to find God, that these tribes literally had it upside down, and they raised their children out of the womb that the most important thing was self-actualization. And when you have self-actualization as the foundation, you have self-esteem. And when you have self-esteem, you automatically feel like you belong. And when you feel like you belong, you have safety. As we know, there's safety in numbers. And when there's safety in numbers, your physical needs are met. So how do we raise the next generation? Raise your child in the way they should go. Know thyself, and to thine own self be true. If we could raise our children with know thyself, and to thine own self be true, I think it would, not to be dramatic, solve the world's problems.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I did have one more question, if you don't mind. And I guess, John, in light of what you spoke about today, I guess this is more for you. Obviously, Melissa and Catherine, feel free to hop in as well if you have something. But I have been, and many have, I've been studying contemplative prayer. Okay. And what I'm running into, and it doesn't matter if I go back to the early patristics or someone a little bit more modern, like a Thomas Merton or even John Crowder. In light of everything that we've talked about over this weekend, in everything that I've read, it's almost as if, especially Merton, if you've ever read Merton, he does a very good job of telling you what contemplative prayer is not, but not the best job of telling you what it is, especially how to do it, quote unquote, if that's even the thing, which after this weekend, I'm kind of learning that contemplative prayer is exactly everything that you are not doing. It is not doing. But I would just like you to kind of expound upon that. And it doesn't have to be contemplative prayer specifically, but prayer in general, just how we engage the divine within, right? Do you have any advice on how people can approach contemplative prayer in light of everything that we've learned this weekend?
Several ways I can go with that. For me at this point, who has been a meditator for a couple of decades, meditation is not something you do, it's something you don't do. The second you try to meditate to attain something, you're back at that tree saying, I don't have what I need. So it becomes kind of the dog chasing its tail in a sense. And I think, again, learning ourselves is also learning the idea of where the ego begins and ends. And it's really not that simple either. It's kind of a fade into one into the other. But it's to kind of grasp that, because I'll put it this way, the last thing the ego wants to do is die. Now, technically, the ego is not to die, but be recalibrated to serve. But that said, so we go to meditation classes. A lot of this is a good start because there's something bubbling in us. Again, it all starts well. But like anything, matter of fact, somebody mentioned earlier about experience, and I can remember, gosh, it was 1979 and I was just got saved in Assembly of God Church. And man, we had one of those Sundays, and this is the language, of course, you used back in the day, is, the Holy Ghost fell, right? As if the Holy Ghost was standing up in the ceiling and tripped. The idea was Holy Ghost fell. And then immediately it was, well, we sang this hymn, and then that chorus, and the Holy Ghost fell. So next week, guess what we're doing? This hymn, and that chorus, and expecting the Holy Ghost to fall. Many times we're no different when it comes to meditative stuff. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. It has its purpose for a season, and then sometimes things have to shift again, because either A, the ego likes to engage, or we have fulfilled that segment and need to move on to something else. And I hate even using the word move on because it's not an external motion forward. It's really an internal resting in reality that's within us. Gosh, there's a couple other things too that was said that dovetails into all of this, but I think that's one of the reasons why we really don't see many model prayers in the Bible. We make model prayers out of the Bible. You know, we say, oh, we got the Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. You know, come on, who can't recite that one? You know, especially if you went to Catholic school. But when Jesus, for example, said that, he did that to break up with the thinking. Calling God my Father? You mean I'm equal with God? What are you saying? Are you nuts? That kind of idea. He did it to break up something, not to institute something. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question. Maybe Catherine and Melissa want to dovetail on that, but put it this way. And I apply that, you could apply this to the Trinity, etc. I think that's all the different things that we use to help us along the way. The real key is they're helping us along the way, but they're not the end all and all things. There was a fellow by the name of George Box. I like his statement. He says it this way, and I'm trying to remember when George Box said this. It probably, I think, a couple 30, 40 years ago. He said, all models are wrong, but are useful. Okay, so whatever models we're using that's ministering us to now, it's useful, but eventually it's not going to be the model.
Exactly.
And if we're okay to flow with that, great, I believe we'll discover more about who we are, who God is, thus who we are, who God is, and who we are, and all that stuff, as opposed to locking into something. Isn't that the truth of the Pharisees? I actually said this to a friend of mine who was a minister a couple of years back. We were having a conversation about, quote, this new theology or thinking. I hate to call it that because I don't really think it's new. It's been around longer than we have. We're just discovering it now. This is just our turn. And I said here, I said, you know, because he made a comment. He goes, yeah, it's just a shame these religious people don't get it. And I said, you know, if that's our take, then we really are not have moved along as far as we think we have. And here's my concern. After we've been flowing in this for a while, I don't want to become the Pharisee for the next generation that wants to move it to another level and me complain. I'm convinced, I shouldn't say convinced, I'm at a place where I think when Jesus said, it's more needful for you that I go away so I can send the Comforter, wasn't because of just you know, I want to fill you with my spirit stuff, like we would say in Pentecostal days. It was because if I hang around any longer, you guys are going to worship me up the wazoo. And you can't afford that, and I can't afford that because I'm not in the business of having you follow me. I'm in the business of having you realize how much of you is me. And I can't do that while I'm in this physical form standing in front of you.
John, you should write some books. That was really good. That was really, really good. That was very nice. Thank you very much. I do know we're coming up on the tail end of this here. Odin, I know that you had a question that'll probably be the last one, and then we'll kind of wrap up and get everyone up on out of here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm on my phone. Give me 1 second. Where did it go? Where did it go? Yes. How do we begin the process of restoring our religious oversteps with our grown children? And that's for the entire panel.
Start by apologizing.
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So I want to jump in here. I have 3 boys, all very different. My firstborn got to go with me through Charismania, Bethel, all of that stuff. You know, being on circuits and whatever. Middle son went through that as well. They're only 18 months apart, and a little bit more exposure to some of the political stuff that I was involved in. And by the time all of this imploded, I'll put it that way for the moment, religious stuff imploded. There was my youngest son who there's a 8-year spread. And so he actually grew up more in the full deconstruction than either one of the other boys. And I carried some mom guilt about some of that for a while. And realized a few things. One is, as you begin to become more authentic within yourself, your children will value that beyond your imagination. And when you get over yourself and the concerns of you on your child, which I completely get, my youngest, because, you know, he wasn't raised in church because I was like, get the hell out of here, you know, phase. He was at this point, he's like, I don't even know if I believe in God. And he got into some, you know, strange explorations of his own. And we had our little discussions, my husband and I, about what we were worried about. And you know, and that whole thing. And let me tell you, this is so funny. My daughter-in-law's sister is going to the vet school here at A&M. She's in charge of like the, you know, Christian leadership program or whatever. And they were selling t-shirts, and, you know, I was like, of course I'll support you. I'm like, I have no desire to wear the t-shirt. I'm not a huge t-shirt person, but of course I'm going to buy t-shirts for everybody in my family and support her as a, you know, wonderful little human. And the t-shirt is like, love animals. I think it's like love A&M, love animals, love Jesus, or something like that, right? And I bought one, you know, for my sons, and my youngest son, who this whole time has been like, I'm not entirely sure I believe in God, you know, and I've been, okay. And that's actually his favorite shirt. He's out wearing it all the time. This believe in Jesus. And I was like, wow, like, God, you're being God to him in your own way. And what I've seen with my 2 older boys who were exposed to horrific things in the church, we've had adult conversations of, I'm not perfect. We didn't have it all figured out. I'm sorry, but I know that you're going to figure out your own way. If there's anything I have done that has wounded you, right? And we've had these conversations. My middle one had to come to me and say, okay, I got to talk to you about this one event that I was talking to my therapist about. And I forgive you and da-da-da-da-da, but, you know, and those are the hardest conversations in the world. But and it wasn't about going back and trying to fix what I did or didn't do. It was the acknowledgement, the ownership, and then let's all just move on together. And you get to be you, and I get to be me. And the most important thing is I love you more than you will ever understand. Now we all have competitions. I love you. No, I love you more. I love, you know. But it all just came from me releasing the mom guilt and the distortion that there was something I had to fix. That's past tense. There's no power in living past tense. There's lessons, but I still can't do anything about past. I can't do anything about future, because what if tomorrow doesn't happen? The only thing I can do is in this present moment, own it and let their experience be their experience and my experience be my experience. And one of the things that I have learned, and I actually learned this through Danny Silk, love him, like him, dislike him, whatever, it doesn't really matter, is understand that your children, when they're adults, are actually your peers and no longer your children. And sometimes that's the hardest evolution to go through, but it has been the most healing one I have ever seen between adults and their adult children.
That's amazing. I mean, the only thing I think I would add, I think you and your growth process as you become a more authentic version of who you are, helps create a space for the very same thing to happen to your children. And so when you're not partnering with fear, either regret, I mean, the mom guilt, I mean, did all of that. Like, let me just say, Melissa, ditto, all of that. Okay. Um, but when you're not partnering with that, and that you're really also championing your children because you really believe in them, like who they were made to be. Yeah. And standing for them and their process. You know, one of the most powerful things that we can say is, well, honey, you're powerful and I know you'll figure it out. Right. And just give them the space to work it out. You know, I understand that this is where I've come through. I'm still in process. When I get it all figured out, I'll come find you. Don't hold your breath. Right. And, you know, and you can have these things, but also not, your children can sense when you have an agenda that's anything else but love. And so you allowing them and giving them space in their process and believing in them, you know, that whole relational thing, it will carry you through all the missteps in your parenting, because you're not going to just misstep in the area of faith. I mean, gee whiz, you know, there's a lot of things that you can screw up with your kids. But the things that will carry them through and allow them in their process and give them the freedom to be themselves can be incredibly healing. And just like you said, Melissa, for the both of you, adult child to adult, you know, to adult parent, right? And trusting God in that process. I mean, he's a master redeemer, you know, and all the fragments that can crop up and the things and what he's able to bring forth out of that is priceless, you know. And so we do need to deal with our crap. We do need to deal with our hangups, our fears, our agendas. Okay, I'm going to mom guilt you now. Well, that does not bless your child. I was such a bad mom. I'm so sorry. It's like, okay, forgive you. Can we move on now? Right? Right. Oh, I love that. Who read that? Odin, from fragments to fractals. I like it. So anyway, yeah, I don't have that much more to add. That was brilliant.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Well, I mean, this whole 3 days has been amazing. I want to, as you were talking, Catherine, you know, I don't want to be cheesy here, but I want to give encouragement, into the deepest expression of authenticity we've ever experienced. And here's the catch. And this has been the biggest lesson I've had to learn and am learning in my pursuit of authenticity. You don't pursue authenticity, you become authentic. The moment I try to be authentic, I fuck it up. Like, and I'm not being authentic as long as I'm trying to be.
And you're probably annoying
What
people
may,
because that's an agenda, right? My authenticity agenda, which is massively
yep,
inauthentic. And it's just annoying,
and
right? When we do that.
and it has a certain. I can't believe I'm gonna throw myself under the bus like this, but I've done this, and then when it happened to me, I recognize it, and you know that feeling when you're really embarrassed and ashamed for someone because they're just acting completely ridiculous and just embarrassing themselves. That's what that's like. And I sense it and I know it. And not too long ago, I was at work and I caught a whiff of me in the act of this, trying to be authentic. And it was just like, shut up already, bro. It's in those moments where it's like, just exactly what Melissa was talking about, surrendering to who you are. So, I have absolutely loved this weekend, and we do want to give each of our panelists just a opportunity to plug their information, their books, last comments, and then after Esther, I totally want to get you. I'm gonna make I want you to go. So ask your question, Esther. No? Okay. I thought it
Sorry,
no,
I'm
go
here.
for it. Cool. Thank you for joining us this weekend. Esther, go for it. What do you have for us?
You were thanking me for, can you mute her? Sorry, we're in the same room, my husband and I, and there's an echo whenever I speak. But no, you're thanking me for joining this weekend. I don't even have words. Thank you for putting this together. And Catherine and John and Melissa, I mean, I don't think I can get through this next sentence without crying. It's just been incredible and exactly what Mama Bear knew I needed this weekend. It's been rough this last month. As you guys know, Jim and I have a daughter that's 28 years old and in the hospital right now, actually. She's hospitalized right now. And it's just been really hard this week, this whole month. But I have been experiencing what it is to be carried through pain. And then on a Thursday, I just felt like I really sensed as I was driving to her crying, I really sensed a thought. And the thought was that pain you feel is my arms around you. And it made me start crying and laughing at the same time because I thought, is that what is that about? Pain is your arms around me, and it's this fiery love that's burning everything out of me that is not of love's kind. That's what I thought about of Paul Young saying that. And it just carried me the rest of the day. And it's just been one thing after another. After that, a friend called me, and then I had a conversation with another friend, and then I ended up in this conference. I even have to move things around, and to be able to do it. And I'm just so thankful talk about encounters. This has been one. And I just really appreciate it. I love you guys. I love you, what you have brought to my husband's life. You know, when we came back from the family reunion in September and you invited him to join you guys, you have no idea what that did. That's incredible, incredible for such a time as this. You invited him. And it was just, it's just been one wonderful thing after another. Project 95 was a game changer for Jim, and it carried me as well in a way. There's just so much, but just thank you so much. I love you guys. I love you, Catherine. You on Thursday, man, I couldn't even. I was just crying and crying and crying the whole time. I don't even remember what you said, but it spoke deeper than I could understand or that I could grasp at that moment because I was just in so much pain. And I'm gonna go back and listen to it and take notes on it. Now maybe my brain can hear it. But I just could sense the love, the love that you have for the Lord. And I could sense him loving you and hugging me at the same time. I don't know. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And I drank from that fountain the whole next day, and I really needed that. And then Melissa comes on, and then I'm hearing about how these vibrations and these things that I've been trying to connect in my head. I've been meditating on this. Talk about contemplating. I just been kind of talking to Holy Spirit about it and like leaving it there, being very curious about it, being stirring in my heart. And then Melissa starts bringing this phrase, kisses of confirmation. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly what it feels like. And I just love that. And then John comes up and starts, whoa, I don't even know. That was incredible. And I said to Jim, I've been telling you this for like a year now. We're God, and I would say that and be like, oh, is that wrong? I shouldn't say that, right? But then I got this, you talked about the ocean and we're this wave, and then the ocean and then we're that wave, or if he's the dancer, we're the dance, or if he's the sun and we're the sunbeam. And I'm like, yeah, I love that. That I can live with. So I absolutely loved it, the three of you. And this could have had a huge price tag on it. Huge. That Jim and I could not been able to afford to attend. But nobody put a price tag on it because you have freely given. And my heart just explodes with gratitude for the willingness to freely give. And I know that it will be shaken down and just pour over you 2, 3, 100 times fold for what you have given this weekend. So thank you very much. Love you all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a blessing having you guys a part of the group and having the conversations on Tuesdays, and you guys are always around when stuff is going on, and sometimes early in the morning, late at night, sometimes both. And we so appreciate you guys being a part of our little community here. It's been an honor and a pleasure to know both of you, and obviously both of you are in our hearts and our prayers, and we're just so excited to share this parentheses of eternity with you guys. It's awesome. Thank you so much. Man. Wow. I don't know where to go from there, guys. That was incredible. Thank you so much. We do for the sake of the video, I know that we've asked you guys already. I know it's in the chat. If you wouldn't mind, please plugging yourself one more time. I just don't want the viewers to miss a single opportunity to hear where they can find you guys and support you and follow you. It's just our due diligence for all the awesome things that you guys have provided this weekend, to include your time. So, Catherine, would you mind starting off, please?
Sure. You can find everything at Catherine Toon, just my name, TOON, like cartoon, at catherinetoon.com. my YouTube channel, we want to really sort of highlight because that's where we post all of our podcast interviews. I'm just warning you, Melissa and John, I'm going to find you and ask you to be on. So come join me. I want you on my podcast. So just FYI. So yeah, that's at Catherine Toon. I think it's at Catherine Toon MD. Mercy, is that right? Okay. And then everything else I do, all my books are on Amazon, Marked by Love, God, Male and Female. Those are the two biggies. And that's there. I do have a mentorship group. I didn't mention that before, but I do have a mentorship group, which has been heavenly in so many ways. I also do coachings for those of you who feel led that direction. Just come find me, ask questions. I'm easy to find. Mercy, am I missing anything, babe? Okay, good. Yay, I got it. I always suck at the promotion part. So anyway, yes. So anyway, come find me and just come find me. I'm on Facebook and all the things. Come find me. Yeah.
John, would you mind plugging your stuff real quick, and then we'll do Melissa, and we'll wrap up here.
Sure. Two websites. One is called Mastro, M-A-S-T-R-O, which is part of my last name, M-I-N, Mastro Ministries, mastromin.com. And that's more towards my international ventures, although also my books and videos and stuff are on there as well. And then there is which we're actually, well, it doesn't matter. Go to TOOASIS.com, tooasis.com, and there you'll see a picture of my lovely wife, who's the senior pastor there, and she lets me speak every so often. And you can also get at our books, but our entire video library, that goes back quite a long time. We were doing the video live streaming stuff before there was a thing called COVID and all that. So we did that several years. So we have kind of a large library there, maybe not as large as others, but of most of our teachings, Karen's, myself, our guests, they're there as well. And just like Catherine mentioned, and I'm sure Melissa would be similar too, and that's that, if you want to reach out and say hi or, hey, I got a question, knock me up. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And yes,
So,
the books are on Amazon too. Sorry.
and same. So my name, melissamccreary.com. That's the website, the main website. If you're a woman, then you can also visit hersovereignos.com. And then I've got a bunch of resources there. And I would say I've got the two books that are published both on Amazon. The one that is probably most relevant to our topic here is The Kingdom Within, The Secrets of Trinity Oneness. That's on Amazon. And then my husband and I also wrote what's called C-Level Marriage, which is like CEO, COO, and it's all about co-leadership. And so we also touch on like the feminine, the masculine, stuff like that in that book. So if you want to grab that in regards to marriage or really any kind of partnership, that's that. But most of all, what I prefer is to just reach out. It's much easier to help, to connect, to all the things when you just authentically reach out to this authentic person. So
Yeah, and so I was having a little bit trouble with my phone, people calling. Man, I just want to thank each and every one of you, Melissa, Catherine, John, for such an incredible investment into us. Not only investment, but confirmation, and just a very, very loud invitation to keep going. Like, we just, you took me up as the because I just do what I do and not look back. And then when it's impacting lives, and it, man, it just chokes me up because most days I really question if I'm impacting any. So, um, when there's confirmation that I am, it's really good. So thank you for that. And thank you for each one of your guys' relationships. Like, I was telling Rob this morning, like, specifically you, Melissa, I want to say this, and I was wondering if I was going to, but when I initially reached out to you, it was a risk, not because of who you are, but because I didn't wholly know anything about you, neither did none of us. But I had a gut, like, for 3 days. He's one of you. He's one of you. He's one of you. And when I first called Rob, I'm like, bro, you gotta trust me on this. Like, I'm going with it. And it has turned out to be such a wonderful, enriching relationship we've cultivated with you. And that goes for you too, Catherine. And obviously you, John. But specifically, I was like, man, go take a risk because there's reward in risk. And so thank you for being that, Melissa and Catherine. And, you know, I absolutely love that it goes both ways. You know, from what you texted me, I'm so glad we can do that for you. I mean, that is probably the element that jacks me up the most. Is like a caliber person as yourself to come into a small little online thing like this and just get stirred like that. I got some go juice now. So thank you. Any last words, Rob?
No, man, not really. It's been wonderful. I've said it at least a dozen times, but I'm gonna have to watch each and every one of those videos at least a dozen times to get it all. Uh, Jeremy said it all, but I'll echo personally from me. Thank you so much to all three of you. It's been wonderful. And I mean everything, just dealing with the technical issues and helping us throughout the planning process. Obviously, we've never done this before. But you guys were so patient, so kind, not only with your time, but just everything that you poured into this conference. I cannot thank you enough. And I believe I can speak for everyone when we say we are immeasurably grateful. Please, by any means, if you guys need anything from us, not sure what that would be, please reach out and we'll be more than willing to help you out. And if you guys ever want to come back to Project 95 for a podcast or just to hang out with us, we're a phone call away. You guys have our contact information. But yeah, thank you. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, and let me say this. Like, everybody here is welcome to Tuesday. Mercy, pop in anytime you want. Melissa, Catherine, we're here. You don't have if you just want to come on in incognito, golden. You know, absolutely golden. And if you have people in your sphere of influence, and this is not a promotional thing to grow because I could give two craps about numbers. But if you know people that would be enriched in communities like this, man, connect us. They're in based on your guys' word, you know. So and likewise, you've done such a good job of serving us if there's ever something we could do or collaborate with you, there's one answer, and that's yes.
Right?
Outside of cult rituals, the answer is yes. So, yeah. So we're here anytime, anything. So thank you again. And we will stay in touch soon. And yeah. Well,
Okay.
cool.
All right. You guys have a very blessed day. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'll see you guys on Project 95. Love all of you so much, and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yep. Bye bye.